When dealing with a falsehood, you're faced with two options. You can accept it or you can reject it. The basis upon which we take one of these actions is a product of our critical thinking capabilities and a desire to know what is true instead of confirming our bias. A lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is still putting on its shoes. On Brainstorm, we choose the hard truths over the comforting lies. Reason, compassion, skepticism. This is the Brainstorm Podcast.
To those listening live or to our patrons, welcome back. For those listening weekly, welcome to the Shift to Reason Radio, the Brainstorm production where we take current events and important skeptical topics and try to analyze them critically. Today is June 8th, 2018. I'm Cory, and I'm still joined by Angela.
Hello.
Leo.
Hey there.
Lisa.
Hi.
Brandon.
Hello.
And of course, the always amazing Dave.
You didn't say Dr. Lisa.
I didn't.
You're fired. Doctor. From your
She can
free
do
job that you do all the work for. Yes, when they give you a PhD, they give you the right to fire anyone ever.
So does that mean that Dave has to hit the big switch now?
That's why I should have gone to some sort of schooling.
No.
No, it's not worth it anymore.
Yeah, actually, I've heard a number of people say that getting the PhD isn't worth it.
I don't regret it. It's just, yeah, terrible. No,
It's just awful.
Your chances of economic success are not tied to a university degree anymore. That's like,
yeah.
There was like that golden period when it's like, get your doctorate. And it's gone.
Fucking baby boomers. Don't get me started.
Fucking baby boomers. That's right. They fucked the whole thing
What's
up.
that? Like that critical mass of all these things coming together made it really easy for people to succeed. Maybe it didn't have anything to do with the PhD in the first place. Who would have thought?
It was just a different time. It was a different time.
Yeah, when you could go get your doctorate at minimum wage and own a house and support a family.
On a single salary.
On a single salary. Yeah.
Part-time.
Part-time.
Mainly weekends.
How much easier can we make this?
And I don't work Sundays because everybody's Christian. So basically it's on a Saturday salary. That's what we...
That's right. Get your university degree.
But only in the morning because the afternoon you need to go, park.
That's right. You got to golf or something.
Yeah.
You deserve it.
You work half a day every week.
Like at least twice a month.
Oh, shit.
Because, birthdays and anniversaries.
Right.
And stat holidays.
Exactly.
As opposed to what millennials, those poor millennials
Eat
are going
everything.
to.
So you basically worked 5 times a year.
Yeah, that's right.
For 2 hours.
Shut up, millennial snowflake. Take your minimum wage jobs. And shut up.
That's right. If you don't like it, starve.
To death.
You can get crackers.
Yeah. But not anymore because we don't like to pay for food stamps or whatever.
Only the unsalted. Salted.
Yeah.
That's
right.
Apparently you're not worth your salt.
All right, no more fun. We're going to go to religious nuttery.
you're damn fun.
Cornerstone, this might be new to some of you. Scripture says that even our righteous deeds are as filthy rags to God. So even the good things that you do, even things like feeding the hungry and clothing the poor and taking in widows and orphans, as nice as those things are, if not done from the place of obedience to and a relationship with God, are completely worthless and disgusting to God. If you're not daily walking in a place of relationship to God, then the news that we have to bring you is that you're on your way to hell right now.
Well, that convinced me.
This guy's just like reading a chick tract, isn't he?
He's up on stage at a concert. That is right before his Christian hardcore metal band plays.
Oh, that's hardcore.
And they probably
Okay.
scream, "You're going to hell."
Yeah, that's right.
Turn your life to Jesus.
Some of the music that we might play in future breaks, it will probably be bands like Destroy the Runner or Demon Hunter, which are like heavy metal bands who are Christian. Very, very good music. But
I was going to say, are they any good? If they're good, I'm willing.
Yeah, they're super good actually, but
If you like metal.
yeah.
With that kind of stuff, I've always found that I didn't really give a shit because I didn't understand any of it anyway. Like, it was just like,
See, I always knew the lyrics, and they actually do a good job of kind of masking it a bit. So it's like they're talking about demons and like things like sinners and whatnot. And I mean, when you're talking metal, that makes sense. That's perfectly good lyrics for metal.
Actually, to deviate just a little bit for just
We don't do that here.
Yeah. Are you at the right podcast? Apparently, like this is opinion online. It's like Black Sabbath wasn't really a satanic metal band. The imagery they used was essentially religion. At worst, it was
Neutral.
critical of atheism and unbelieving.
Yeah, they were a metal band.
Yeah.
I mean, metal bands talk about religious iconography all the time.
But that's the little digression I wanted.
Yep. Like Slayer has the pentagram. I mean, and kind of took hold of the whole Satan worshiping kind of thing, but
that's you've already exhausted my heavy metal knowledge.
okay then.
I hear there are other bands, but I mean,
Alrighty. Let's get into your story then.
well, I got a story from the article initially was from Dead State.
Okay.
It's regarding a YouTube pastor named
yes.
Matt Powell. Matt Powell's got about 350 YouTube subscribers. Fortunately, a little more than us.
Yeah. Actually, we're getting higher, so I mean.
Good. So, but anyway, he's trying to build his profile, right? Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the way he builds his profile usually is most successful when he says something dumb or kind of evil.
Right.
And along the lines of kind of evil.
He's been featured a couple times on like atheist sites like Friendly Atheist or the Utah Outcasts. They've done a couple videos on stuff that he's said.
Mm-hmm. There's that other one I'm thinking of that has a little basement congregation. It's not the same guy. Similar idea, but not the same guy. But anyway, he appeared on a webcast with atheist YouTuber Skylar Fiction, where the two got into discussion about the harm that Christianity promotes, such as anti-homosexuality. For those of you playing at home, yeah, it was that bad. I'm quoting him off the article here. It's like, as far as homosexuality goes, I believe the Bible puts the death penalty on it. I believe it's disgusting, and incidentally, every scientific test has come back and said that homosexuals are 50 times more likely to get AIDS. We got this AIDS thing spreading. It's a fact that this is the case. Yeah.
Citation needed.
Well, the problem is whoever he's getting statistics probably doesn't account for behavior and other factors involved. Yes, they're more likely to get AIDS. Even if they are more likely to get AIDS, there's other problems as such that the population is exposed to.
Right.
But that's not what I'm here to discuss.
Pretty sure it's just a made-up statistic, actually. I don't even...
It sounds made up. I mean...
Anytime you get an exact, 50 times...
Yeah.
They're exactly 3 times more likely.
Maybe. It sounds fishy.
Yeah. He was asked, you don't believe that gay people should be stoned to death, i.e. the classic biblical punishment.
Right.
And this is where he breaks into a Trump-like cadence. I believe the Bible puts the death penalty on it. Obviously not by me or anybody in a regular society, obviously. Yeah. I believe it's the government's job to execute criminals. I believe that the Bible says clearly that homosexual is a criminal crime. It's a crime. It's one of the worst crimes ever.
Well, it's a good thing.
Methinks he does protest too much.
Yeah, maybe
that guy wants some cock.
He likes
He does.
the D.
Just saying.
Give it time.
And
Give it time. He'll be
I'm just
exposed.
saying.
endlessly that those comparisons amuse
Some
me. It's
male
like,
prostitute will get balls deep in that guy.
it's just like, it's like, wow, you complain a lot about this for a straight guy. Are you?
Yeah,
Evidence shows.
It does actually.
But there's that little shining light at the end of the tunnel. Because it's like, it's like, by whatever means they execute people. And obviously, I believe in humane, putting to death. Because, death penalty is humane.
Right.
I guess if you want to go with no suffering, that's one thing. But putting somebody to death for being gay.
Being a Canadian who we don't have like the death penalty for anything seems like a non-crime is definitely not death worthy.
Yeah. Skylar pointed out that Powell's use of the word humane when talking about executing people was kind of ghoulishly hypocritical. As, I want to kill them, but I want to do it nicely.
Yeah. It's the good kind of killing people.
Yeah. Apparently it didn't go on in the article itself, but he went on more about whether or not he should extend this punishment to other awful deeds in the Bible, like disobedient children,
eating shellfish.
Yep.
Wearing blended fabrics,
possibly lethal injection.
Yep. You sat on the same couch as a menstruating woman. You're fucking dead.
You're done. You're up.
You're done.
How do you adjudicate that?
It's really easy.
Well,
did you sit on a chair?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
So wouldn't you have to sit on the same chair at the same time?
It doesn't fucking matter. It's going to be a patriarchal thing anyway. So
yeah.
I mean, they can pretty much make up whatever the fuck.
Just going to punish the woman.
A jury.
Yeah. He's going to help stone the woman because she had the gall to have a period.
A jury
in
of all
public.
Exactly.
A jury of old white men determines that you are having your period. They don't actually ask you.
Yep.
Yes. We've decided that she was on her period. Therefore, she will be stoned.
That sounds very Trump-like.
That's very Trump-like.
So we'll kill her and beat the guy. What? Hold on. No. But yeah, so once again, this Christian minority here that wants to actually enforce like the worst parts of the Bible.
Yeah. Fun times. Good old young preacher, I guess. 22 years old.
Yeah. I feel like this is like, I'm going to say something dumb on the internet.
He wants to be Justin Bieber's best friend. That's probably why.
That's why.
Yeah.
So
He wants to be Justin Bieber's boyfriend. Let me tell you.
Actually, yeah, that's going to be the scandal. There you go.
He's got to get more than 350 followers to have a scandal, though.
He's working at it.
He is. He's saying the right things.
Yeah.
Evangelicals, hardcores.
Give it time. Give it time, folks. It'll happen.
Okay. I'm going to do my story now.
Okay.
Do it.
Hopefully I'm not going to take too long. I did not enjoy this. The original article is from theatlantic.com. And it says, American atheists are as religious as, wow. What was the title again? It's awful, though.
As religious, like how do they define religious?
Yeah, or it's something about religious. Atheists are more, as religious or
as Christians. Are more religious than Christians.
Yes. Our atheists are sometimes more religious than Christians. And,
I read part of this.
By Sigal Samuel.
Okay.
It's under the international heading, and it actually talks about a study like where they surveyed about 25,000 people in 15 different countries and compared this to results from previous surveys.
Okay.
And they confirmed, of course, the overall fact that Americans are more religious than anybody, pretty much. So,
and I would just like to point out a little thing here. Like, you could also say that smokers sometimes live longer than non-smokers. Like just the way the title is phrased, you could pretty much anything, like there's the statistical odds that one person might.
Yeah, so sometimes.
This is basically just the outliers.
Yeah, so sometimes.
Like the guy who credits his living 140 to that cigar he had every day since he was 4.
Definitely.
Yeah. But it doesn't make sense. As Angela said, what is the definition of religious? Maybe we'll let you get there, but
there's a number of issues with it. Like, the researchers found that the American nuns, those who identify as atheist, agnostic, or nothing in particular, are more religious than European nuns.
Wait, what?
Yeah, that's where it becomes a little bit problematic.
Okay, I'm
because
listening.
Where did you find American atheist nuns?
No, not nuns.
NONES.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. Researchers found that American nuns, those who identify as atheist, agnostic, or nothing in particular, are more religious than European nuns. Or European Christians, perhaps.
So do they help us understand what they mean by religious? I'm curious, like, or do they talk about that in the beginning of the article?
They kind of go to just a straight up definition of people who believe in God when they're talking about the nuns who believe in God and want to call them religious.
So are they lumping in like all the none of the aboves?
Like they're taking people who say, I don't follow a particular religion, but I believe in God, and they're saying that those people are religious.
So it's basically saying that the ones that are kind of deisty but don't really have a preference
are religious.
So that's pretty much what they're saying. Like the non-religious people are more deisty in America than they are in Europe.
Yes,
that's rough. Okay,
roughly what they're saying.
I was just that's what I got from.
So it's still a misleading title, but it makes sense.
When you put two groups together,
right? Yeah, like of the people who identify as a nun. Like no religion in particular, only 3% of those people identified as actually atheist. So the headline itself is completely misleading.
It's basically like saying that the people who don't like beer in America they tend to prefer IPAs, and in Europe they prefer lagers. The ones that don't like the beer. That's kind of what they're saying.
If I had to pick.
Yeah.
I was dying of thirst.
Then you can die a little faster after having that beer.
IPA.
Fucking IPAs.
It's like people who have never been to a doctor like their doctor more in America than they do in Europe.
Yes. Well, and that seems like a true statement according to this article.
So there was 3%, like I said, 3% of the 22.8% of nuns in America, 3% identified as atheists and 4% as agnostics and 15.8% identified as nothing in particular.
Does this include the Jedi?
This might include the Jedi.
Or unless they factor them in. Yeah, there's a movement kind of growing too.
Although it might not, because they might actually say,
yeah, I
belong to the Jedi religion.
Yup.
I thought about it, but what they didn't say that part of my entry package was lightsabers, so I declined.
So I also have an article like that. The original article is from The Atlantic, and it's, I also shared an article from, pathos.com, according to Matthew, written by Matthew Faciani. And he kind of, he disputed like the way this article was written.
Yeah.
Which is fair, I thought.
No kidding.
Like his title is "No, Atheists Are Not More Religious Than Christians."
Yeah.
Which is kind of obvious if one even thinks about the definition of these words. But yeah, I don't know. Not much else to say. Atheists aren't more religious than Christians.
Oh, well, I was just scrolling through. You may have noticed that I was showing Angela here something,
Right.
but so I was scrolling through the article, like I just like reading a sentence here and there, and then I came across a quote that just said, "Beyonce is a better theologian than many of the pastors and priests in our churches today."
Right.
And then
that bit
and
of
I was
the
like,
article.
okay, so you have my fucking attention now. I'm like, what? This is a weird thing to. I did not expect
I
that
don't
in the
know
middle
if
of
the
this.
person who said that knows what theologian means.
Well, I also, this is a quote inside, so I didn't read back like who they were quoting, but I did this just, I was scrolling through and then that was, like, that's where my eyes landed, like, of my random sentences that I was reading throughout the.
I was actually thinking of Beyonce earlier when Mandisa said that Jay-Z may be an atheist, because I was
Right.
like, because Beyonce is damn religious. She's always talking about praying backstage and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
She thanks God when she wins awards and stuff. So I'm just like, that's an interesting, I want to see that in her conversation. Like,
Yeah, that's right.
About Beyonce.
Actually, that
But-
brings up a question, though. Would you consider an atheist religious if he still chose to attend religious services?
the definition of an atheist is someone who doesn't believe in God. If somebody who doesn't believe in God goes
person-
to religious services, then they're still an atheist.
Yeah, but they can
Yeah.
also be religious.
How so?
In the sense that they are acting, they are
Yeah.
participating in a religion.
Yes.
Sure.
Like a religious person participates in a religion.
Yes.
Right?
In the end,
Like-
just ask the person what they want to be referred to.
But if I just go for the
Like
food,
that-
then
You know, it's like any other
yeah,
thing,
it's just
right?
like, what do you consider yourself?
Yeah.
Are you an
Perfect.
atheist? Good. That's what I'll call you. Yes. Are you a Christian? Okay.
It kind of reminds me
Done.
of the not religious but spiritual
What are
thing.
your pronouns? Got it. Good.
yeah,
Unless you're Peterson, then I'm
They.
going to assign them for you.
Right.
fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy.
I prefer we should refer to him as just entity, a non-gendered pronoun. That person.
That person.
THX.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
all right. I think I'm, well, in Matthew Fasciani's article, he's got a couple things here, like the way they ask the questions, like they ask, do you pray daily? Do you believe in God with absolute certainty? And they found that Americans obviously are more religious than Western Europeans. American nuns who are typically atheist agnostics or religiously affiliated also score higher on religiosity measures. Which, I mean, when you include religiously unaffiliated and you measure religiosity as believing in God or a higher being, then you can still say that. And yeah, I don't know. 23% of European Christians said they believed in God with absolute certainty, while 27% of American nuns believe this.
I feel like that's...
So that's where they're getting the more atheists are religious than Christians headline.
I feel like there's some population issues there.
Yes. Yeah, there's a number of issues with that. I mean, maybe 23% of European Christians said they believe in God, although that still leaves 77% of European Christians uncertain
Who are not certain of
about the existence of God.
they also
Cultural Christians, perhaps.
Yeah, probably. Well, it doesn't completely penetrate their day-to-day life.
Yeah.
And frankly, you can still work your job at the car factory without worrying about God.
Yes, that's
So-
right.
And when it comes to a lot of those countries, like if you have like France with their Catholicism or Britain with their Anglican church, like it's kind of like, yeah,
There.
sure. Yeah, I guess the Queen's Anglican. Yeah,
So
sure,
am I.
Sure.
Sure.
And so it's a lot of these surveys just way too subjective to really tell us much of anything.
It doesn't answer much.
And especially with a loaded question like religion. Yeah, sure. My grandma took me to church. Sure.
Right.
And like people who just don't give a fuck, like they're like, yeah, I don't like that. It's not, a lot of people just don't care.
Yeah, a lot of people
Sure,
actively don't care.
Just like label me whatever you want. I don't give a shit.
And there's also the negative connotation of not being part of a religion or being an atheist. Like, I'm not. Like, I always remember that. I always forget it, and I always make you tell me, and you've not seen it. But the lady who does the monologue, letting go of God. Julia
Sweeney.
something. Julia Sweeney. Yes. Anyways, it's really good. But there's a point where she comes out as an atheist to her mom, and her mom's like, an atheist, not an atheist. I can understand if you don't believe in God, but don't be an atheist. And like, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just got such So if you ask me, are you an atheist? Like, no, I just don't believe in God. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
That's because you get the Bible burners giving people the wrong impression.
say it. It's funny.
Well, and I think that's why sometimes people cling to agnosticism so much.
Sounds better than
Yeah.
atheist.
Yeah,
Totally.
that's right.
Because you're not a total hopeless case.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, there.
And
Yeah.
pretty much anything, even like spiritual. Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I have thoughts. I reflect on things.
I'm a thinker.
Yeah, but I find the spiritual people, no, that's not what they mean. They mean like, I think that there's an energy flow in the world, and I don't really have any specific religion, but it's
they're
it's
actually
just,
worse than people who
they
don't
are
care.
so annoying.
But it also
my
depends.
Mom.
Like, but yeah, so there's so many different ones though. Like you get all kinds of sure. Like I sometimes like just sit and meditate. Like I call that like a spirituality thing. Like like looking at the river and the lakes and like no, there's all kinds of
you do
all
get
kinds,
that. You do
all
get
kinds
that.
of weird.
But I find it's often like, like there's totally this. I find it's usually an energy related thing, or a
It's
good vibes thing, or a
Universe.
I believe in in being good to other people, but I'm not gonna.
I can sit in my backyard, breathe the air, and feel content too. But
Yes.
yeah, I don't need to call myself spiritual.
I can't. I don't have a backyard.
My boyfriend Sam Harris talks about how he uses the word spiritualism when he says like atheists need spiritualism, and he talks about like because he's a big into meditating.
Yeah.
And he doesn't mean anything like supernatural. He just means that like this is like an aspect of our psyche that kind of needs to be massaged or whatever.
Well, and just
but we just don't have a better word for it. And so apparently he got booed off the stage once. He said it's the only time he's ever like gone on stage and been like had a standing ovation coming on. And then he gave a talk about how atheists need spirituality with respect to meditation. And then he got booed coming
Which is interesting.
Did you just want to hug him after?
I always hug my boyfriend Sam Harris. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And on that note, let's move on to some woo report.
I'm not a scientist, but if I can tell you your science sucks, then your science really sucks.
That just makes no fucking sense. I mean, it's just bullshit. Fuck.
All right, Lisa, did I pick an article that was actual bullshit?
yeah, I think so. No, it's a criticism of a book. So the article itself is not bullshit, but the book is. So I think
which fits.
I just read the article and I take it at face value. I mean, it's a reasonable article, so I'll just. Here we go. It's from a website called Science-Based Medicine, which explores issues and controversies in science and medicine. So it's a review of a book by Lisa Mosconi. She wrote a book called Brain Food, The Surprising Science of Eating for Cognitive Power. Before I get into all the information, like all the details about the book and the criticism of the book, I just thought I would read this, actually part of the end of the article, which says that this woman who wrote the article is actually, where does it say this? She holds a dual PhD in neuroscience and nuclear medicine. She is the associate director of the Alzheimer's Prevention Clinic at Weill Cornell Medical College, New York Presbyterian Hospital, and the founder of the Nutrition and Brain Fitness Lab at New York University School of Medicine. So she's got like serious cred. So I read the whole article being like, fuck, who cares about this stupid woman who wrote this stupid book? Because like, who cares? Like, it's bullshit. Of course it's bullshit. But apparently, so I think it's actually important to start with, she's actually an academic and well educated and works at real places. And yet she wrote the following book. Okay. So she claims
the author is the original author is
the author of the book has 2 PhDs and is
Wow.
It works at very prominent hospitals and universities.
So if anyone would know the facts, about a specific area.
She
it would
has
be her.
cred. She has cred.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, Deepak Chopra is a noted cardiologist, isn't he? And Mehmet Oz is what?
Okay,
But-
Deepak Chopra is not a cardiologist, is he?
Oz is a cardiologist.
Oz is a
Sorry, but
cardiologist.
Chopra is actually, was a practicing doctor. Like,
I don't think you're right.
I think he was.
Maybe
dude in
I'm
the
wrong.
Hangover movies
Somebody look
was
this up
also
while
a
I'm reading this
doctor.
shit, okay? Now, so Lisa Mosconi, who's not related to Deepak Chopra or Dr. Oz, okay, claims that there
She's
is
got the creds.
increasing evidence that implementing the lifestyle changes described in the book has the potential to prevent Alzheimer's from developing and also to help slow down or even halt progression of the disease. So basically, she's advocating a diet that she thinks can prevent Alzheimer's and reverse it in this book. And basically she offers no evidence for this whatsoever. So, basically, quote, eating for your brain actually helps you achieve peak performance in every part of your life.
Oh.
She says the human brain has its own unique diet, different from the rest of the body. However, the evidence presented in her book does not support that claim. In fact, the diet she recommends for brain health is also a diet for bodily health. So, there's a lot of different claims that people make that ways you can reverse Alzheimer's, including things like Alzheimer's being caused by gluten or obesity or lack of sleep or chronic Lyme disease or toxins spewed by leaky gut syndrome. But the science says, according to a Lancet review, that the only known modifiable risk factors for Alzheimer's include low levels of education, midlife hearing loss, physical inactivity, high blood pressure, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, obesity, smoking, depression, social isolation. Notice that poor diet is not on the list. They recommend, so generally, like the article from the Lancet recommends active treatment of hypertension, more adult childhood education, exercise, maintaining social engagement, reducing smoking, and management of hearing loss, depression, diabetes, and obesity. So, the Lancet does not, for example, recommend specific dietary interventions or supplements because there's no actual scientific evidence that stuff would actually prevent Alzheimer's.
Did they not just recommend hypertension and diabetes management?
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess that would be part of
That is dietary management.
that would be managed dietarily, but that's not the same diet as she's recommending.
Right.
And
yes.
like, I mean, that would be like a low or no sugar diet, for example, and et cetera, blah, 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 blah. I mean, that's generally different. I mean, obviously these things would prevent having a healthy diet would prevent diabetes as an example, but not as the causal thing. So. Yeah. So basically, the Mayo Clinic says that there's strong evidence that several factors associated with leading a healthy lifestyle may play a role in reducing your risk of Alzheimer's disease and other types of dementia. However, more research is needed before any of these factors can be considered a proven strategy to prevent Alzheimer's disease. But Mosconi is not waiting for more research. She says, quote, the human brain has evolved over millions of years to absorb specific nutrients and to function on a relatively specific diet. And the author of this review says, I don't think that's true. We have evolved to thrive on a variety of diets. But anyways.
Right, because doesn't everything break down to sugar and run our brain?
Essentially.
Well, the thing is, human beings have lived all over the earth. I mean, obviously we have not evolved to have a specific
diet.
We're very various. As a species. Anyways.
Yeah.
So Mosconi repeats many of the standard memes of alternative medicine. Doctors only treat symptoms. Nutrition is not taught in medical schools. Our soil is depleted. Our food is less nutritious. Pesticides, toxins, etc. She says the brain is the one most easily damaged by poor diet, but she does not provide any evidence for this. She also shows 2 MRI images to contrast the effects of Mediterranean diet and the Western diet. So she shows one person's brain on presumably on one diet, one person's brain on another, and this is somehow evidence for something, which of course it is definitely not.
all the other factors,
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and 2 people. Worst study ever.
2-person sample size.
Yes. Terrible study.
No, not even 2 people. 1 person sample size, one person control.
From each group, yeah. Yeah. Total of 2. She repeats the oft-refuted advice to drink at least 8 glasses of water a day. She cites a study where people were intentionally dehydrated and showed that they didn't think I had cognitive impairment, but nothing to show that drinking way more than you actually need would have any effect. She also says that purified water is bad because essential minerals are missing. She makes the ludicrous claim that purified water is entirely incapable of hydrating you. Again, so I'm reading this and I'm just like, okay, who cares what this woman says? But she's a double doctor and she works in prominent places. Anyways, as sources of water, she recommends coconut water and aloe vera juice. And she says that energy drinks are not good for you because they're chock full of manufactured minerals and salts.
That's what
anything manufactured is
manufactured.
That's what everybody says.
So, her general premise with respect to nutrition is if your brain uses nutrition X and foods A, B, and C are high nutrition X, then you need to eat A, B, and C to be healthy, which is sort of a kind of standard fallacy. So here's the advice she gives is to avoid trans fat, eat fresh vegetables and fruit, avoid processed food, limit red meat consumption. It's better to get your nutrients from food than supplements, exercise, get adequate sleep, and avoid stress. So at least what she's advocating isn't like totally bad shit. Like it's not like it's going to hurt you. It just doesn't make any sense that this is specifically going to prevent Alzheimer's in your brain.
Right.
It just, yeah. I don't know. She points to some observational studies where lower intakes of certain nutrients were correlated with cognitive impairment. So yes, being deficient in nutrients is bad, but not that you need to eat extra of any nutrient, which is what she's advocating for. Strange. Definitely you got to avoid GMOs and anything that's unmanufactured. She says she takes royal jelly daily. I don't know what royal jelly is.
It's a bee byproduct.
Okay.
It's like a special kind of honey.
Okay.
Interesting.
She takes it for its natural antibiotic effects. She says these effects are, quote, known, but perhaps not scientifically confirmed. So, if something's not scientifically confirmed, it's not really clear how it's known. Mm-hmm. But anyways, drinking
folk wisdom.
Yes. Did you know that in drinking 8 glasses of water will increase your focus and reaction time by as much as 30%, according to her? So, and there's an 80-question test you can see at the end of the book to show if how you're following the brain healthy diet. Test has not been validated, so it's hard to say what it means. And she has recipes, organic everything, local raw honey, free range eggs, so just organic grass-fed whole milk. So make sure you spend way more money than you need to on food, basically.
Yeah. Basic nutrition isn't sufficient.
Yeah. Filtered water, goji berries, acai berry powder, ginseng extract with royal jelly and bee pollen, organic spirulina powder, and Himalayan pink salt. So
the salt crap again.
Definitely.
So, but it's so anyways, it's just really disappointing that somebody who is very has cred academically has written a book that, I mean, like I said, it's not going to harm you. It could harm your bank account, I guess, if somebody. Well, but I mean, it could harm somebody who could otherwise not afford it, and they're wasting money on
spending money on that stuff.
You don't need to spend. So it's a lot of bullshit.
If you're not getting enough calories, then it doesn't matter.
With no real evidence that that's any good idea. So, yeah.
All right.
That's the article I read.
Deepak Chopra.
Don't read the book.
Deepak Chopra was a doctor.
Of what?
Endocrinology.
Okay.
Board certified in internal medicine, specializing in endocrinology.
From where?
So Chopra taught at the medical schools of Tufts University, Boston University, and Harvard University, and became chief of staff at the New England Memorial Hospital later. So back in
similar deal of having cred and being like really just
from 71 to 77, he was good.
Mm-hmm. The point I wanted to get at is just
in the 70s.
The point I wanted to get at is just because you have a bunch of letters behind your name doesn't mean that everything you say is right.
Unless it's me.
Mm-hmm.
You're never wrong.
Dr. Lisa is always right, unless she's praising Sam Harris.
All right.
You don't believe he's really my boyfriend?
I would believe that.
I want to believe it. No.
I think we got that.
Okay. Well, that was interesting. I suspected it was bullshit because
Miracle
your brain,
cure if you buy this book.
Your brain is runs on basically sugar. I mean, And so specifying certain foods doesn't seem to make any sense to me because your system breaks it all down into nutrients.
But you don't need more of them than you need.
Right.
But it's also
you don't need more water than you need.
If at the end of your pitch is you're selling something, it's
generally a little fishy.
You just need to look into it a little bit. Like if the whole article is just to get to now buy my book, that's like, okay.
Well, this was a review of the book, and it was and it was generally very critical.
Yeah. Okay, let's do some science.
If you base medicine on science, you cure people. If you base the design of planes on science, they fly. If you base the design of rockets on science, they reach the moon. It works, bitches.
Yes, science!
I don't know why I always want to kill people.
I feel like we need to add a caveat to that every time we hear it. It's like, sorry, he's just British.
We just need to have we need to record Leo over and be like, science needs to cure people.
Yeah, that's right. If you base medicine on science, it cures people. All right, Angela.
Even medicine.
I apologize to anybody who's British who listens to our show.
I know, fuck you and your accent.
I would just like to say that Leo did not make any offensive jokes at the expense of the British.
Good job.
There you go.
It's a very different place.
Leo was innocent. Blameless.
All right. Angela, what do you got?
Well, I got a story about an insect that I'm not super jacked about, but I powered through because it's for the greater good.
I was thinking about who to give this to, and I was like, okay, so who likes spiders and who doesn't like spiders?
Are spiders insects or are they arachnids?
They're
not
arachnids.
insects.
Or I think,
the PhD should know.
No, my PhD is not in bugs.
No, you said that 5 minutes ago that you were always right.
I'm asking a
so
question.
Now you get to
I'm right to ask the question. Angela, you go.
Yeah, you go.
Entomologists are arguing, or not, that we shouldn't necessarily kill spiders in our home.
Unless we want to.
Even then, they're saying, guys, leave them the fuck alone.
Oh.
Because spiders are an important part of nature and our indoor ecosystem. And generally they're secretive and they don't fuck with you unless you fuck with them. So, yeah, they're usually secretive and almost all you meet are neither aggressive nor dangerous. And they may provide services like eating pests and some even eat other spiders. So there was a visual survey conducted of 50 North Carolina homes to inventory just which arthropods live under the roofs of houses indoors. And every single house they visited, all 50 homes they visited in North Carolina, had spiders. And the most common species they encountered were cobweb spiders and cellar spiders. And both build webs where they just hang out and wait for bugs to come to them. Sometimes cellar spiders leave their webs to hunt other spiders on their turf, mimicking prey to catch their cousins for dinner. So spiders regularly capture nuisance pests and even disease-carrying insects, for example, mosquitoes. There's even a species of jumping spider that prefers to eat blood-filled mosquitoes in African homes. What?
Nice. They're doing a public service, Angela.
So killing a spider doesn't just cost the arachnid its life. It may take an important predator out of your home.
Well, there you go.
It's natural to fear spiders, but there's also entomologists who have fallen prey to arachnophobia, and they've overcome their own fear to work with these spiders. So, apparently bites from spiders are extremely rare. And there's widow spiders and recluses are medically important?
There's a note of disbelief there.
But the brown recluse spiders can cause some damage.
Yeah, if they bite you, their poison is actually pretty hardcore.
Yeah, they can cause paralysis and infection and stuff.
They have they're the like wounding spider, not a lethal one, but it's still.
Well, you can lose limbs if you don't get it treated, right?
I think there's only 2 spiders in the world that actually are pretty lethal, like that actually kill you.
Right.
Black widows and
then there's like a Amazonian spider that
it's the size of a plate.
Actually, I think it's small.
I thought didn't think it was quite the size of a plate, but
how big is the plate?
That's the thing.
That's a good question.
Dinner plate.
Went to IKEA. There's so many options.
No, we don't have one here. So the moral of the story, and I'm getting like, I feel things crawling on me as I talk about
Angela,
this.
forget like the the poison of spiders. Like, when you have a bunch in your home, aren't they crawling into your mouth when you're sleeping?
They are not.
You're eating them.
That is a myth.
No, Angela, it's true.
Spiders?
You're eating them every night.
That is actually a myth that I've actually had to debunk in my home
every time.
My
How
son
do you know
was
it's a
convinced
myth?
because there was a spider person, a person who loves spiders, that demonstrated that spiders will just walk around your mouth on video.
Oh, so they're crawling on your face, Angela. They're not walking into your mouth.
That's right.
Don't worry.
They might bite you. They might crawl on your face, but they will not walk in your mouth.
And then you're going to chew them, and they're going to be in your teeth. You're going to have spider guts in your teeth. Floss that out in the morning.
Because spiders have like almost a way of sensing danger, and your mouth is dangerous.
Well, I mean, probably the airflow is the biggest thing for them. It's not exactly subtle.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true too. But
no, they like the moist environment though, Angela.
I once was we're like bugging the piss out of Angela right now. I once was told that when you wake up with like a sore, like one of those little marks on your leg and it's really sore and you got a bump there, that's because a spider bit you overnight.
I've had those periodically in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's interesting that they went to 50 houses and all of them had spiders. Like there was a 100% spider ratio.
I'm not the least bit surprised by that though.
When I lived in Victoria, that was a spider heaven. Like I remember a friend moving out of her place and she like moved a box and there was like a spider. It was like with leg span, it was like 8 inches across. Like, it was huge. It was just sitting there on the wall and we were all just like, oh.
So the size of a plate.
It was roughly the size of a plate.
It might have been like
a dinner or a supper plate.
More like a lunch plate.
8 inches?
Shots fired!
8
What's
inches?
the difference? I hate you people.
Hey, I'm
squirming here. I'm not going to be able to go to fucking sleep tonight. Because I'm going to feel spiders crawling all over my skin.
Right. They're just on your mouth, Angela. They're just on your mouth.
Just in my mouth.
No, they're not in your mouth.
Around. They're giving your mouth a rim job.
Yes. Rim job.
That's what a rim job
With their hairy legs.
Hairy legs.
So there's this trade war.
Well,
Talk about that shit.
Let's go to politics.
I wasn't ready for that segue.
No.
Yeah.
He was still in the rim jobs.
That kind of floored me.
I might have to just go home already.
The spiders and rim jobs and
You have an episode title though.
Spiders and rim jobs. Yes.
Spiders give rim
You're
jobs.
welcome, Cory.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I appreciate that.
Everybody complains about politicians. Everybody says they suck. Yeah! Well, where do people think these politicians come from? They don't fall out of the sky. They don't pass through a membrane from another reality. They come from American parents and American families, American homes, American schools, American churches, American businesses, and American universities, and they're elected by American citizens. This is the best we can do, folks. This is what we have to offer. It's what our system produces. Garbage in, garbage out.
It's not terribly hopeful these days.
on that note, fuck Doug Ford.
Oh my God. Yeah. Fuck Doug Ford.
I can fix any problem you tell me. How? We'll figure it out.
So I did not prep for this because I was like, this is going to be all over the place because I'm not sure where we're going to land on this on Friday night. But we could start with the trade war and move on from there, or do it the other way around.
Let's start with the trade war. So tariffs on steel and aluminum from the U.S.
Yep.
Well, the tariffs are from the U.S.
To the U.S. Canadian steel going to the U.S.
Yeah, that's right. The U.S. is charging tariffs on our steel and aluminum.
Because someone in the White House is a genius and thinks that tariffs aren't going to cause problems for the people who buy the steel in the States.
And what was, like, we're going to charge tariffs on shit that we import from them, right?
It's not like a blanket tariff. It's fairly focused.
Well, we'll see what they end up doing exactly, because you can never predict. The guy might wake up in the morning and tweet something like, "Well, we're not going to do this."
True.
So, but
this is what happens when you have this guy as a neighbor.
But yeah, in general, tariffs are not necessarily great, but also they're not necessarily bad.
Right.
So it's not that tariffs are automatically bad, but the way in which they're being implemented at the moment, you don't want a tariff war.
Right.
But you do want some tariffs. I mean, Canada has a shitload, but they're rarely mentioned.
Right.
But
because these are deals that countries work out between each other.
Yeah.
Right?
These are, just trade deals. Like, okay, so we're going to buy this from you and you buy this from us. But you can't buy this other thing because we have to separately negotiate that.
Right.
So it's not like by default that we should have no tariffs. It's kind of like, countries are allowed to have their own tariffs and stuff like that. But the particularly damaging thing about this is the guy's trying to be a dick.
Right.
So I mean, you don't try to rub it in people's faces. If you plan on having good diplomatic relations.
Something that I heard was that this is kind of the reason they are worried about this steel and aluminum tariffs, like the reason that they're implementing these, is because Canada is officially being viewed as a security risk in case they enter into some kind of conflict with China.
Which I think is hilarious.
Well, and did you see the article that I don't know if you posted that in the show notes. I didn't read all the article. But
that's funny. I did.
But there was
somebody's a better group.
All of them.
When Trudeau and Trump spoke on the phone, apparently, according to White House sources, that Trump brought up the War of 1812.
Oh my God!
Yeah, he apparently said something to the effect of,
you guys burned down the White House.
Yeah, you guys burned down the White House,
dude.
What did Trudeau say?
Well, I don't.
What do you say to that?
It's like it was the British.
What?
No, but
I'm francophone. He said that.
My choice of response is you do know when Canada was founded, right?
What?
But
no, he doesn't.
Yeah.
And this is particularly an interesting thing. I mean, Trump has lost most of the other things that he tried to do nationally. Like, I mean, most of his things, like he says we're going to do this, and then like people and like the more rational people are like, no, we're not, and then it doesn't happen. And this is one of those things as well. Like, if you have states that have manufacturing businesses that need the steel and aluminum, they're going to be like, well, we kind of like the the whole non-tariff thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, most people in the U.S. are not on Trump's side. Sure, like when he says like we're gonna fuck the Canadians, well, like it sounds. Yeah, I mean, you can rally somebody to like, yeah, sure, but once you have the people who are actually doing the numbers and like the math on things, who they have to fire and what they can produce and what it's going to cost. I mean, most people don't like the idea.
Yeah. I don't know what to say. Like, I'm just dumbfounded. Like, this whole thing makes me just go, okay, fuck it. Let's
what?
just.
What the fuck? Stop it. Come on.
You can't be this dumb.
I feel like in sometime soon, the World Trade Organization is probably going to have like something to say about it.
Yeah.
they're going to try and to like not let this get out of hand too much. Like,
I think it's interesting. Like, I mean, okay, so the U.S. kind of implemented these trade tariffs on steel and aluminum with a bunch of countries. And then they were like, okay, well, we'll exempt Canada, Mexico, and Europe for a little while, for this X number of months. And then they're like, okay, well, the time's up. So now the tariffs apply to you too. And so now they've actively pissed off trade with everybody.
Yeah.
Like effectively, like everybody they trade with is pissed at them right now.
And it's very interesting though. I mean, I don't know if any of you follow the Mexican politics, but there's an election coming up. First Sunday of July. So it's pretty soon. And there's a pretty far left candidate running, who's kind of a little bit weird like Trump. Oddly enough, he does say kind of random shit.
Oh, geez.
Just on the other side, like kind of on the leftist side. But the guy, last time I checked, he was like 20 points ahead of anybody else.
Is that right?
So this is kind of an interesting thing that you're going to have. He's not nearly as bad as Trump, and at least some of his ideas are good. Like, but he does say kind of outrageous things. Like I'm going to raise the tax rate the same as Canada or something like that, or increase the wage in Mexico to the same as Canadian wages and implement the same regulations.
And some of those things just don't work there.
No, like you do understand that you can't just do that overnight.
Right.
But it's kind of an interesting thing. Like, and a lot of that seems to be somewhat of a reaction to kind of the far right politics. Like, well,
fair enough.
So we'll see how that goes, because that election's first, and then just another 4 months later, they have their midterm elections in the U.S. So this is a very interesting thing to happen just before the Mexican elections, because oddly enough, the guy in Mexico is also kind of anti-trade, but he's like on the leftist anti-trade, kind of the anti-globalist.
Right, right.
So it's kind of interesting.
It's a different kind of dynamic.
Yeah, well, and Trump kind of went against anything that conservatives had stood for a long time. Like, nobody was anti-trade. But all of a sudden, he went like just all the way around to some weird alternative universe. But
so we'll see where we land, I guess.
Actually, I wanted to share a bit of an article I read. Apparently, the person's opinion is that when you kind of look at Trump's mindset, it all sort of makes a weird sort of sense in that framework where Trump isn't able to think of mutually beneficial deals.
Yeah, I think I saw something about that.
He only thinks in zero sum.
Yeah, he doesn't believe that if I'm not ripping you off, you're ripping me off.
Yeah.
Like, there's no middle ground. We're both getting something. It's always one way or the other. So he is compulsively driven to be the one who rips off others.
Right. Because he's insane. Well,
I've heard that before
use that word, but
on Sam Harris's podcast. I'm just saying.
Right. I don't like to use the word insane, but I don't know what else to describe it as.
No, he might have a version of mental illness, whether or not it's
narcissistic.
Yeah.
Possibly disorder. I don't know. I have heard a psychologist say that.
There might be a little bit of affluenza in there too.
Yeah. So, right. Actually, I should find that article and share it too, because that was quite good, where he broke down in a series of tweets or whatever.
Yeah.
This is kind of the way Trump works, and he sees everything as a, if I didn't win, I lost.
Yeah.
Type of situation.
And I think some of the advisors that he's surrounded himself with, like the zero sum game, like that was pretty common several decades ago, where it's kind of in the 70s, where it was thought to be, kind of like, we can't have two winners.
Right.
And so he has surrounded himself with people who are not really caught up with kind of the more modern theories on how international relations work. So to put it like super nicely, but a lot of the guys are 60+ year like white dudes who read a book in the 70s. You know, that's
Right.
like,
Yeah. So, okay. Kind of in the same vein, but moving on also. We have the G7 summit coming up. And Trump asked to have Putin brought in.
I don't know if we'd say asked.
Well, yeah. I don't know how you put whatever it was.
He had
did.
like a mini little tantrum.
Right.
Like publicly?
Kinda, yeah.
And I mean,
Like on Twitter or what?
No, he was in like one of his little press scrums.
yeah. And I think that even like Stephen Harper was the one who was part of the G7 that booted Russia out and said that Putin should never be allowed back in, or Russia should never be allowed back in as long as Putin is in
Harper
charge.
was a different kind of conservative.
Well, yeah, much different than Trump, right?
I mean, Trump makes you wish for Harper. I
Yeah,
mean, it's
really, he
like-
does.
but then
No.
again,
No.
on a very little, just a little parentheses there. There's some weird connections that are surfacing between Harper and like the Trump movement.
Is that
thing.
right?
Like he was down in the U.S. like promoting books and shit. Like, but you know we can do that on a future episode.
Oh, wow.
Like it kind of odd little ties like to similar to the same people.
Because some of his philosophies would play with that crowd.
And especially it came up during like when the whole embassy move to Israel.
Right.
Or to Jerusalem.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. That sounds about right.
Yeah. But yeah, back to the G7.
Back to the G7.
Yeah.
So there's a G7 summit coming up in Canada.
It's like going now.
Oh, is it going on right now?
I think today some
Okay.
people started arriving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it's in
Macron was there
Canada.
yesterday.
And nobody wants fucking Russia there. Except for Trump.
Except for Trump, because Trump wants his buddy at the table.
Yeah.
Is Russia there?
No.
Oh, okay.
Definitely.
Frankly,
not.
I'm not convinced America needs to be there.
G6.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty fucking good.
Like, honestly, it's starting to look like a number of the other nations are starting to act it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of agree with them. It's like if you can't really play a stable game,
Yeah.
you don't get to play at this table.
Because despite his protestations, Donald Trump does not stick to commitments that he makes. And you can't trust that.
It's almost like he's a liar.
It's almost like he's a liar. It's almost like that.
If only we had a better word, instead of almost. It's like something more assertive and more.
Well, I mean,
something more definitive.
I'm sure he's told the truth at least a few times.
Well, if you say enough contradictory things, one of them is going to be true.
Eventually, you circle around.
Did you do this? Yes. No. Well, you definitely said the truth at some point. Like,
Maybe.
That's right.
Yep.
I suppose when he says his name.
Yeah, he knows his name.
Well, I thought it was Drump. Or what was
Well,
it?
technically, legally speaking, his name is Trump.
That was a joke. That was a joke.
Make Donald Trump again.
Yeah, for sure.
Trump.
All right. So the G7 summit should be the G6. What else do we got?
Americans are booted out until they can elect a real human.
And Doug Ford shouldn't be the premier of Ontario.
And Doug Ford shouldn't be the premier of Ontario. I don't know what else to say about that. I don't know what happened.
Ontario?
No.
Are you talking? Sorry.
Yeah, Ontario.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know what happened.
you have the same sort of problem you had when the Liberals left federal politics in the early 2000s, where it was essentially they'd been in power, had their arc, people got tired of it, and they couldn't think of.
There was no alternative.
Yeah, they couldn't. They couldn't really. They couldn't rightly elect the NDP. So, blue it is. Like, I think it wouldn't. You didn't need Doug Ford to be the person up front to end up with the.
So, is beer going to be $1 a can though?
No. Like,
Was that actually an election promise he made?
I don't know.
he spouts.
I read it in a parody article.
He spouts not quite as much bullshit as Trump, but I mean he he doesn't really have a plan.
Right.
A similar style, like where just like kind of these weird positive things, like Ontario's gonna grow, like we're open for business, like just kind of these little one-liners that just screaming them
because he doesn't know policy.
Yeah, and like nothing specific, just we're gonna grow our industry.
Vague.
We're gonna get better agriculture. Get lower taxes, like just kind of these little snippets of.
But no one had the gall to ask him what he's going to pay for those lower taxes.
Well, and he just says another thing, like just kind of that you
just like in
a bunch of little cue cards.
Yeah, just like in Team America World Police when Alec Baldwin tries to go up against Gary. It's like global warming. She doesn't know.
Patriotism. We rule.
It's not about.
And unfortunately,
I gotta watch that movie again.
Yeah.
That's something we kind of suffer with the way our media landscape has changed, where because you can always find a news outlet that supports your choice, your viewpoint, you worry less about how critical the media is of being of any given story.
Right.
I mean, nobody really hounded him regarding his fiscal plan. Nobody followed it. Like it was made a point of, but never really followed on. No one, not at every campaign stop. Like it wasn't a big deal.
And I mean, this country still just has, I don't know, an unreasonable hatred for the NDP.
Yeah.
Like there's a big chunk of the population, regardless, like, who just cannot stomach the NDP for whatever reason, and that's why pretty much every election going into it, they already have a disadvantage,
right?
Because there's a huge portion of the population who would never vote for them, whereas a lot, like the other two main parties, don't have that going against them as much.
The thing about I was talking about this with my husband over the last while, is that the Conservatives have very specific things that they believe in, and then the left have a much broader idea of what they want. So when it comes time to elect a party, it's more difficult to unite the left than it is to unite the right, because of the broad range of ideas that they have.
I could see that. It is easier to say we should go back to that thing.
Yeah.
Or we should continue doing this thing we're doing than it is to say, like, okay, well, let's expand our scope of what civil rights are. Or here, let's expand our scope of
daring
of healthcare. Or let's be daring in any sense, right?
Yeah.
But there is something.
Let's trust somebody to not develop nuclear weapons when we make a deal with them to not develop nuclear weapons.
There's definitely something to be said for a government willing to plan more than 4 years in the future.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which I think is important and generally plays well in Canada. Like, because we don't have term limits, we do have a tendency to think a little bit longer term.
Yeah.
Though it's getting worse, back to more like the next election type thinking. So I guess politics, we covered like 3 different things, but we're going to close this out. For everything else, you can check out the show notes at thebrainstormpodcast.com and our website, brainstormblog.net. Thanks to our financial supporters, Stephanie, Zach, the Utah Outcasts. Hey, now let's hit that outro music.
I was about to do it for you. I didn't think you were going to tell me.
Bassett, Will, Aaron, Daryl, Destin Sucks, Bob Glenn, Destin doesn't suck that much, Magnus, several species of small furry animals gathered together in a cave, Positively Skeptical, Rob, Julie, Chris, and Larry. If you want to join them and help the show grow, then you can do that at patreon.com/brainstormpodcast.
Squirrels can be skeptics too.
That's right. Or you can go buy stuff at tpublic.com/stores/brainstorm-podcast-gear. You can join us every second week, except we only have one more left before the summer break. Our next show is on June 22nd, and our guest will be Matthew Lee Loftus, aka The Credible Hulk.
Neat.
Thanks again to Mandisa for joining us. You can find more of her stuff at blacknonbelievers.wordpress.com, so make sure to check that out. Thank you, Dave, for our intro music. Thanks to Aaron Rabbi from Embrace the Void podcast for doing the voiceover. You can find his stuff at voidpod.com. Thanks to Alex Capper-Murdoch for doing the voiceover for our ads, and thanks to Jason Camo for the outro music. You can find his stuff at aloststateofmind.com. All music played is either with permission or under the SOCAN license to play. For more information on SOCAN, you can check out the music license info page on our website, brainstormblog.net. Remember to give us a rating, or thumbs up, or a fave on your podcatcher of choice. Join our Facebook group, like our page, follow us on Twitter, share the show, and spread the word. For live listeners, stick around for the after show. Some of us might stick around. Brainstormafterhours.com. Listen to the bonus content before it goes Patreon only. Thanks for listening, and remember, the truth matters.
This is an opinion-based podcast. Each person on the podcast is responsible for their own opinions, and those opinions don't necessarily reflect the views of the rest of the panel. Any guests or anyone associated with the people on the podcast, such as spouses, partners, children, other family members, friends, or employers. No one person speaks for the podcast, with the possible exception of Cory, and he doesn't speak for anyone else on the show. The Brainstorm podcast does not represent the views of our sponsors.
We just wanted to say thanks to everyone who listens to us, shares the show, gives us a rating on iTunes or Stitcher, or supports us through Patreon and Gumroad. We don't have a lot of interactions with our listeners, but what we have had proves that we attract some of the best people around. Smart, kind, and cool. An audience truly worthy of the titles hardcore and woo-free. Thanks for helping us make the world a smarter place.